Welcome back to How to Leave a Cult, and I'm your host, Brooke Walker. Today, we're going to dive into a critical chapter in the story with Lane Kamp. He's the son of cult leaders Trina and stepson to Stephen Kamp. In this episode, we're going to explore the group's move to Tonto Village. It's a remote mountain town that became the new home base for deeper control, secrecy, and influence. But it wasn't just a place to live, it became a hub of careful constructed businesses, everything from construction companies, accounting firm, ice cream shop, all run by the church, law firm, and all woven into daily life. Um, Lane, welcome back.
Hi, hear me?
I can hear you. Yes,
Okay,
loud and clear. So, last episode, we kind of talked on up to everything leading up to when the move happened to outside the Payson area, which was Tonto Village, about 20
correct.
minutes outside of Tonto Village.
Okay,
So, when did you move?
let's see. So we had, we always had a summer home up there,
Right.
my mother's family, and then two other summer homes were bought. One was bought by Jake Garrett, the big Moco lot, that was the school, and then there was another one, another cabin right across from the Fitch cabin, kind of up on the hill there where they built their house. So let's see. So we would go up there even when the cult was going on in Mesa. We would spend weekends and people would go back and forth. It was kind of like a treat or a thing that my mom did with people, you know, to hang out and go for the weekend and get out of the valley and all that type of thing.
Right.
So I ended up moving up there probably in 93, maybe 1993. Um, if my memory serves me. So the move happened, I think, in 92. So Florence Camp, his mother died. And I believe it was like September of 91. And so that was kind of the thing that triggered him moving. And so that's why I'm not so sure that it was a purposeful thing. It evolved. This is that evolution of the cult moment,
Right.
where I'm not sure that he was thinking deviously in that way. I mean, we had a bunch of properties in the valley. There was the block, as we called it, right? There were also many other homes around 7th Street. So after his mother died, he moved up there first, alone. I think my mom ended up staying in the valley. He was kind of up there alone and started a couple of businesses up there.
Okay.
And Fritzy, I don't know if you remember her, Fritzy Lewinson, Jerry
Yeah.
Lewinson's first wife, she was up there and she was his secretary, and Jack had moved up. So there was only three or four people up there.
Okay.
And then just kind of naturally people started moving up. So back to answer your question, I believe it took me maybe a year and a half, 2 years to fully move up. There was a lot going on because we had also been in a wreck after me, before me and Nicole got married. Remember, there was lawsuits going on
Right.
with an accident that had happened. So there was a lot of things going on with that as well, going back and forth. Believe, yeah, we went to Indio. There's also the birth service was formed in the valley, I think in 90, right around that area.
Right.
And then I was doing a business in the valley too. But I hope that answers your question. So I think it was like 93-ish, the end of 93, the summer of 93, I moved up.
And how many did you guys? I know you had your first child. Did you have your second? And
So Harp was born in 88. So Jess was full blown by the time he was in kindergarten. So 88, right? Was he born in 88 or 87? Gosh, let's see. He was born in 88. So 89, 90, 91, 92, 93. So, but he was five by 93. So he was playing kinder chess by 93.
okay. And you guys were up in
And I
top.
was already up there full time,
And was there ever a explanation as to why everybody was moving up there that you remember? I don't really remember one, but or it just
No, there wasn't. I mean, I know people loved it up there, the weather, the change of seasons, being out of the heat,
Yeah.
getting a fresh start. I know that it didn't like all happen at once. It was a slow progression of waiting for people to, waiting for properties to come up for sale, and then other people getting involved in helping buy the properties, and then a family would move up, you know.
Right.
Um, and he definitely, I think, controlled or tried to control as much as he could who came up at what time, and, you know, whether there was some purpose in them coming up or not, or what they were going to do when they got up there. But it was just an expansion. And the other thing is this, as that expanded, really there was no homes in the block that were sold. We kept all those homes, your parents' home, Wrench's home, um, our home.
Yeah.
There was a lot of other homes that just stayed there, and people, would go back and forth and do a lot of commuting for work and things. So it took a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years, to really um, get enough properties together where people could move up lock, stock, and barrel. And of course, it was two or three families, sometimes in a house, you remember.
Well, and yeah, and then of course, everything in Tonto Village was, it didn't have sewage or it didn't have sewer.
Yeah, I mean,
Didn't have
they
city
were
sewer.
summer. Yeah, yeah, it was horrible. I mean, they were summer homes. They weren't meant to have people year round.
No, they were probably half of them weren't built to code,
Say
or
that again?
they weren't built to code, and they were
No.
put together with materials that looked like they had, I mean, I'm not materials that didn't match a lot of the time.
Oh yeah, no, no, no. Yeah, they were summer homes that were built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I mean, they were just summer homes that had been resold, bought and through families, and then, started to acquire them.
So what did you start doing when you moved to Tonto Village? What were you and Nicole doing?
So I was always in and out of all of the different businesses, helping out wherever I could. There was basically no pressure on me in that way to stick with one thing or do one thing,
Right.
or, what I'm saying? A lot. The truth is there were many I think there was a few years where I was the only one, maybe me and one other guy, or me and Scott or Jonah. You would know him as Jonah. His name was Scott Sotos.
No, I remember when he was
Uh,
Scott.
okay. So I actually did a lot of I was very young, so I drove up and down a lot and actually did massive food shops. Remember? So I did that on the weekends and go back and forth. Let's see. I think I dabbled in the construction business. Um, there was property management business that was started. Um, the school had taken off, and we finally moved whoever was living in the big cabin with the center lot. That was finally transformed into a school full time. So there was a couple of schools. Even the school actually started, I think, before your family, or you were very young when it actually started. Remember, it was at 14th Street,
Yes.
and Bill Thompson and Nicole taught there, and Gail. And then it moved to Parcell Street,
Right.
where it was the Learning Choice, and it
Right.
was Garrett and Carol's home and school. So that kind of evolved into eventually the Shelby School. So I don't know. I bounced around in all the businesses. I can't tell you if there was one thing I helped out with wherever help needed.
Gotcha. And so, I want to talk a little bit about the school. Um, I don't remember when it actually, do you remember when it started up there? And if not, it's not, we don't have to nail down dates. I just
Um,
remember.
so let's see. I think the charter was formed in like 92, 93. It was pretty quick
Yeah.
once, and people moved up. That things were maybe even later. Maybe it was 90, maybe it was 94, 94, 95. So yeah, I mean, eventually as the family started to move up there permanently and people got jobs and it was, they were working in Payson or at Coles Ranch or working in one of the businesses. I remember Steve eventually had an office and started doing law up there. And then Stephen, you remember the office, the A-frame, we called it. He
Yeah.
kind of ran the finances from there. And everyone wasn't like merged all of a sudden right at first. Those things got picked away at. That was something that slowly happened. It became more communal like that and more, I guess, communistic, socialistic. It was kind of a quasi, you couldn't say it was pure socialism or pure communism. It was more, it was a kind of a quasi thing.
I mean, I remember like there was like slow things that I definitely remember where my mom
Yeah,
in the it was as it started to transition. I remember there was people living in Tonto Village that my mom that there was still a bunch of people living in Mesa, and
yeah,
my mom was doing communal meals for dinners all the time
yeah, in the valley.
in the valley. And literally it would be a line of people coming through the door to
Yeah,
eat.
yeah.
So
So yeah, definitely both places were still being kind of held together, through the glue of everybody. Um, and so I don't know if we're getting off track from what you wanted to do,
no, it's
but
fine.
yeah, so eventually everyone kind of just started slowly moving up there, and the school happened pretty quickly. Um, and then the charter was written and put, you know, and originally rejected. And that was one of that actually wasn't the first lawsuit, but it eventually was it was the second lawsuit. My memory's foggy on all that. The first lawsuit actually was the Miller lawsuit that happened.
Yes, we kind of brushed on that one a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know in what order I want to talk to him about, so I don't know how to ask the question. So I'm just going to tell you
Yeah, we
what
can
I
go
kind
out of, we don't have to be
so
chronological.
what I want to talk about is how the school ran up there, along with chess and basketball, because I think those became very key things going on with the charter. And
Yeah,
then the other thing I wanted to touch on was um, the businesses, because there was
yeah,
there was just a smattering of businesses that
yeah. There was a smattering of businesses. So, um, let's start with the school. And of course, all this is correctable. We're doing our best to remember all this stuff. As the school started going, there was the charter school lawsuit. We eventually got the charter. Um, at that same time, I believe the Miller lawsuit was still going on for the defamation, and then that had some ties into First Interstate Bank, some things that were going on in Payson. Anyhow, the idea I think behind the chess team now, he had also had some kind of a stroke or a problem with his hearing, or he had a vertigo issue, and I mean, he was out of it. But I think that was later. But anyway, so the chess team started, and he started basically doing an after school program for the chess, and a lot of it was to they were going back and forth from Payson, playing at the Payson Chess Club, and eventually it became kind of a thing where it was our name had, was bitten, drugged through the mud, and there was a cult in Tonto Village, and kind of all that was going on, and then there was another lawsuit. So Steve and Chuck and eventually Mike, there was like 3 or 4 lawsuits going on at the same
yeah,
time,
there
and
was.
it was really intense. And part of the chess team, the idea, I mean, it just was to change the way the cult or the community looked to people, that we were successful, the school was good, as to kind of be put out there publicly. And they did. The boys were fantastic. So there was also money issues and resource issues always. And a lot of the tension and the things I believe that the kids, at least I know I felt, and I know the younger generation felt, was there were issues with and tension between Steve Wrench and Stephen Camp continuously about money. The
Right.
fight never ended. It was years and years and years of it. And Steve started a basketball team for the school, which also helped. And the kids got out of the village and they went and played competitively with other junior highs or whatever, around the rim country. And that expanded. And then those tensions between who would control the kids and where they would be, right?
Well, because it was the same set of boys doing both.
Yeah, it was the same exactly. And not all the boys, yeah, same set of boys. And there was an age gap with the boys too. So, there was the older group, the Dallas group, and then I called it, and then the younger group.
Right.
So that tension was constantly going on, and it was a constant fight. It just from my eyes, it was just it got very abusive, and not everyone was treated fairly. I mean, yeah, a lot of the kids and parents even were confused and got hurt in it all. And then I think your mom eventually did something for the girls ballet, right?
Yeah, so my mom started doing ballet because she was really pissed about the fact that there was all
Yeah,
these different things for the boys to do
right,
and nothing for the girls to do. So yeah, she started the ballet program. And it was very interesting because like I think from, all the generations that were really young and had gone to the school or grown up in it,
right.
we were very controlled in a very different way. And then as soon as it probably like Dallas aged down, it became this like making up for everything and go out in the
Yeah,
world. You're all going to make something so you can make the cult look good.
yeah. And eventually, a lot of that, there was a time where some of that financial pressure was relieved because there was a federal grant that was originally awarded to the school. So we got to upgrade the building, put in the basketball court, um, put in the T1 lines, get all the computers. We're more like an official school, there was um and that was and then with the charter, once the charter was done, then there was a cash flow coming in for each kid, for our attendance and all that. So I think that probably helped a lot as well. But there was always that struggle of resources between Steve and Steven about, was it chess or basketball? So a lot of the kids, I believe, were just kind of really kind of abused in that tug and pull between those two, which wasn't healthy. Um,
Right.
so yeah,
How did it, um, I mean, do you want to speak about the lawsuits at all? Do you remember? I mean, I've talked a
I
lot.
mean, I just wasn't involved like that in all of them. And, I mean, I know generally what they were about. I mean, some of them were ridiculous. Um, Others weren't. I mean, it's so much.
I worked in the
Um,
law office, so I
yeah, I
remember a
mean,
lot, but
so I mean,
I've already
we,
gone
we
over it.
we sued to get the charter. The charter, was eventually awarded. And the irony, I think one of the weird oddball things about that is Elliot Tallenfeld, he was like a lawyer, a professor of law. There was he was booted out or had left the community when he was living on the block and owned a home. Him and his wife, Maxine Talon,
Yeah,
and they had two boys. And so there was a lawsuit years before that in Mesa, and him and Steve, there was a whole bunch of issues with some of the couples and men. And I remember that lawsuit happened. We ended up losing, but they couldn't enforce it because we were living multiple family housing. It was against the covenant, the restrictions, whatever.
right.
So, but anyway, back to the funny thing is he was on the school board when and helped
Really?
approve that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was like one of the board members at that point. For some reason he had, yeah,
Huh.
yeah,
Interesting.
which was kind of ironic, I guess.
Yeah.
So what was the question you asked again? I went off on a tangent.
Oh, I
So
was just talking about the lawsuits if you wanted, but I worked at the law office. If you don't have much to speak about it, I'm not going to go into it. I just didn't know if it came up in your life in a general basis because
Yeah, I mean, I was dead smack center in the middle of the banking lawsuit.
okay,
Yeah, so that was
the
horrific.
kiting lawsuit.
Yes. Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
were you in the middle of it?
Because I was he had gotten sick. Um
Stephen had gotten sick.
yeah, and then it was kind of thrown at my lap. I think I was what 23, 22, 23. I can't remember how old I was. And I was actually doing the money. Like and I had like 55 checkbooks and two business checkbooks and getting up at 4:30 in the morning and continuing the work that he did to fill in the gaps financially, as they say, and float checks to make ends meet until money would come in. And eventually, what happened was um, I had one of the boys was sent down to the valley to do bank runs to make deposits in Payson and then in the valley. And then the car was broken into and the bank bags were stolen, which ended that very quickly.
How much, do you know how much was being floated at any given
Oh,
time?
anywhere from like 20 to 30 grand at a time. Sometimes it was zeroed out. I mean, people would bring in money and checks and real money would come in, but then there was expenses to be made and or things had to be paid.
Right.
So I'm kind of glad it happened because I did not want to do that job. It was horrible. And there was no one really helping me. None of the older men, or definitely not Stephen Camp or Steve Wrench, stepping up and saying, this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. I mean, there were knockdown, drag out fights about the whole thing,
Who
but
started
they
it?
justified it in some way. They justified it in some way. I don't get how they justified it.
Always.
Yeah.
Um,
So that was the only one I was like really intertwined in, I guess.
right.
And it never went to court or anything. It all got kind of settled out, or I was never deposed or.
Did
I mean, then my mom is like, then the whole Miller lawsuit thing ended up her trancing in court. I mean, that made the front page of the Inquirer. Tony Kovaleski came up. There was, the newspaper front page of the Arizona Republic. I mean, all that stuff just was a f so fast. It happened so fast, all three or four lawsuits.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was so much going on during that time.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And were you involved outside how much were you involved in any of the businesses that were going on?
Um, so 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 yeah, so actually the frozen cow, I made that name up. Um, we had a so here's what happened with that little business. So um William was doing taxes for Barbara Nix, Stephen Nix's mom,
Yep.
and she had a lot of rental properties in Payson. So that was his she owned a place called the Hopi House on the corner that was in Payson, and it's been knocked down now. But they were going over the property, and he was doing his tax thing. And apparently, she said, "Hey, I got this little ice cream shop, and wanted to rent it out, or you can." Basically, she said you can have all the equipment, and if you want to, come in here and make a little business out of it, and that's fine. Billy said, "Okay." So then I met with Billy in the Valley, and he told me about it. So we had a sit down. He said, so, creative mind, creative brain, let's have a brainstorming session. So let's start a little sandwich and ice cream shop at the Hopi House. And this will help everyone get out of the village and give people something to do, right? Because it was like, that was the idea for me and him was like, it was, I mean, come on, admit it. I mean, I think there was a point at like for a year or two, my wife said she never even went past the control road. I mean, it was just,
Right.
yeah. So I came up with the name The Frozen Cow. And um, then from there, the biggest mistake I think me and Billy ever made in our life was is we ended up giving it to my mom for Mother's Day,
Okay.
which was horrible. I should have just kept the thing and you know what I'm saying? I mean, it would have been a good business. venture to do and to gain experience. And who knows, maybe I would have liked the restaurant business. So anyway, it took off. And then we eventually moved from that little corner of the Hopi house and bought another property in Payson and then had it all renovated.
Right.
And then that was the one that really took off and pretty popular. We
Did
were
it ever
pretty
make
busy.
money?
I don't know. I wasn't involved in after it kind of was handed over, I wasn't involved other than going there and eating lunch sometimes. Um,
Yeah, there was
Billy
always.
Billy ran that money and ran the accounting and the business part of that. And my mom worked there and cooked, and Ben Galloway cooked, and Sandra, my mom's older sister, cooked, and then your mom, and then Amanda hopped in, and she was working the front counter. And then Marla was involved, and then Tyra was involved in being a delivery person. I mean, there was probably others. That's just who I remember. So it was going good. I think people got paid a little bit, but not anything like compared to, I know there were some checks that were written and given to people, but I don't, probably not to you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I doubt. I mean, I know Tyra kept her tips. I think she got tips for
that
driving
must have
around.
been a later thing because I was never allowed to take a tip.
Yeah.
I mean, we took the tips. I was not allowed to keep them personally.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm sure there was a lot of fighting and little scrubbles and scrabbles that went on about that. No one seemed to care. If they did, they didn't say anything about it. Um,
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think most of that money went to pay the expenses and go back into the pot, but it got to the point where it did get very busy and it did make money. I mean it.
yeah. I mean, it was pretty popular.
And the other thing is that it's complex because there was always people negotiating, dealing with Stephen Camp about where they were in the community or in the cult, whether it's a relationship or so, people were in, people were out, people were demerged, people were put back. And then eventually me and Billy got fed up with the whole thing. And then we sat down again and me and him said, okay, we're going to pod everybody because we can't do this anymore. We can't control all the money from the top. And Billy did the money a lot. He was the money guy. Um,
And Billy
so
knew, I don't know if you shared this on here one day, but you mentioned one day that Billy knew because he did everybody's taxes before
oh yeah,
merging that he also knew who had money, so he could tell Stephen who to put pressure on financially.
sure. As far as
Right.
tithing goes, sure. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. I'm sure that that happened a lot. People would have their taxes done and all that kind of thing. And then, I mean, at one point, I think businesses that made money, wherever the best tax advantage was, because it was all one big pot anyway, wherever the best tax advantage was, that person got given the income.
Right.
This is one of the sad parts about this whole thing is a lot of people worked for years there and they didn't get any income, so they don't have any, their Social Security is not so good, right?
Right.
So that's the other thing to think about with that. Um, um, I don't know how that worked out for everyone or what each person did with Billy. There were so many people,
Yeah.
but I mean that was definitely with the community businesses that were controlled by, either or Rick or Jake or Steven or Jerry Lewinson or whoever, that stuff was done with Billy and. But then there were people who had outside jobs and it didn't matter. They, of course, got their paychecks and just handed them over. And
Were
then
you
they,
involved in the construction business?
yeah, a little bit. I mean, first I did the wood. We had a wood business as well.
Oh, I forgot about the wood
Yeah,
business.
we had a wood business. So I did wood with Scott and Lenny and Michael for a little bit. Um, Construction, it was, I would go and help a little bit here and there. It wasn't my thing. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't involved like that though. No, no, that was pretty much Galloway and Fitch. and Jake and Jim Widger,
Right.
engineering. When they and Colin McRae.
Right.
I mean, because I mean they were both engineers, Jim and Jake. So
Right.
and Galloway was a and Nick were both brilliant in their fields. I mean, construction and electricity and all that kind of stuff. So that was a good business. I mean, they made good money. I don't think people, a matter of fact, I know people weren't paid very much. Again, they had to, I'm sure, gosh, I just don't know. I don't know the details of.
Well, yeah, no, I think it was you work and then you get your bills paid.
Right. And then if there was anything extra or whatever, like you had to negotiate that.
Right.
You had to like grovel or negotiate if you wanted more money to have something extra or whatever, right?
Was there any? I don't remember
There
there.
was a lot of times where money was bad, and one thing, Stephen Camp did was have people call their parents, and people's parents were milked for money.
We did that a
Lewinson, especially, and wrenches,
and my grandparents.
and your grandparents, I'm sure,
But
Chuck was.
anybody, so I've had people who've reached out to me who've left too that were family members. And so it wasn't just parents. If they had other family members too,
Right.
because I've talked to people who had to cut off relationships with people that were in
Yeah. Which
because
was
they,
which is would be if, whoever's out there in internet land, that's one of the first things you should do. If you know one of your family's in a cult and they're asking for money, is stop it immediately.
yeah.
Stop it immediately. Absolutely. Cut it off.
Yeah. Do you think that the businesses, and then there was chillers.
Now, Chillers that's funny that you said. I saw your note on my phone. I did breeze through them real quick. So actually what that was Linda and Amanda had started that, I believe. That was those neck chillers for construction workers.
Right.
Yeah. So they would sew those. We had a like the girls called it the sweatshop. We had probably 5 or 6 Bernina machines, and all the girls did that. That was went on for about a year or two maybe.
At least, yeah. It was
Mhm.
definitely over a year.
And the girls would stop by and help out when they could, but I think it was mostly Amanda and Linda. And then, there was a lady who was buying them wholesale,
Yeah.
and then she was selling them in the
I don't
valley.
think
So
they made any money on that. For what?
yeah, I mean, definitely the labor was, I mean, yeah, I mean, doing the wood business, I calculated it out one time with Scott, the adopted brother, and I think we were like at $2.50 an hour or something like that. It was crazy, but it was cash flow, you know, and
Right.
it was fun for a while. It got old though.
Well, like I don't remember what the number was on the chiller business, but I remember but I've had conversations where it was like I feel like if any one woman of the 5 to 6 that had to be in there sewing those stupid things had one not shitty job, it would have made up the cost difference.
Oh, totally. Oh yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, yeah, I mean the funny thing is this if everyone would have just went and got a job, you know what I'm saying? There was a lot of people who didn't have jobs and we worked in those businesses, but the truth is that they would have had a better life. Well, first, never meeting my parents to begin with, they would have had a healthier, happier life. But yeah, if everyone had just gone and got a job and just said, "I'm not going to do finances with you, but I'll tithe to your church," or I'll pay for trance sessions, things would have been looked a lot different and
Yeah.
probably lasted longer, actually,
Yes.
because trying to do the money the way we did it didn't work. It just didn't work.
No. And I felt like more fell apart after that. Um, Did you feel like the school and all of the school, the businesses, chess, basketball, ballet, do you feel like it began to change the image that the church was getting?
Yeah,
School, I mean, the cult.
yeah, I think it did definitely help. There was a lot of other little things. I mean, one thing that was changed right away was a big argument was the construction company was called because my Aunt Sandra was into Sayababa and we'd been through all that kind of thing, and that was kind of merged in with Duran's teaching and all that. So there was that kind of constant tug and pull between my mom and her older sister. Um, the construction company was named Cyrom. And
Right.
actually, people questioned it or thought it was an oddball name, but then eventually it was changed to Galloway Fitch. So that was helpful, I think. But yeah, so the other thing that helped with the image was having the restaurant in town. They got to meet us. Um, you know, there was, of course, um, the businesses that got out there. Then the law office moved into town, which helped. Your dad and Steve got an office in town. Um, what else kind of helped with that? Definitely the notoriety, I guess, is the word to use for the chess team. They were
Right.
doing very, very well.
Right.
So it was a huge deal. I mean, we were getting positive newspaper coverage and stuff like that. And
What was it that, I mean, so everybody starts moving up to Tonto Village. What was it, I mean, outside of the lawsuit with the Millers and stuff like that, what was it that started creating the, if you remember, or if you have an opinion about it, that it was a cult, other than just the weirdness of it? I mean, was there something that set that off
that it was a cult.
in Payson? Was it just that it was a weird group of people all living
Oh,
close?
well, I mean, one other thing that helped with the image too is that there was a lot of money being shoveled over to Stephen Camp during rodeos. So the August rodeo in Payson. And there was one in particular, I think he did 1 or 2 years where he actually went up during the bull riding and would give $1,000 for the next, that happened, I know for sure 1 year. We gave money to and then the entire community most of my immediate family was involved in helping the rodeo committee, and we were involved in that. So back to your question. Um, so when we started to gobble up properties aggressively, and then there was the accusation from the Miller lady, something, that I mean, the rumors just started to fly. The other thing that happened was there was the tiff with the J family down the street, another hippie group that had bought a lot up in the Third Meadow.
Okay.
Okay, there was that.
What was the, I'm not familiar with the tiff with them. I know
But
who
I
they
mean,
are.
everyone didn't know until Randy Roberson and the whole, I mean, once we were on the radio and then in the papers in Payson and all that hit, then everyone knew it's a cult, you know.
Okay. Interesting.
So, yeah.
Um, how do you feel like the people looking back, or even what you thought at the time, um, what did you think? What did you think at the time? Let me just ask that. What did you
Of
think?
all of it,
Yeah,
oh, personally.
yeah, personally.
So it was a tug and pull. It was a two-phase kind of thing for me. There was a lot of times where I had wished, I can just straighten my parents out and just get this shit put back together and get them some help is the way I thought about it. If people would just fucking leave. If it could just get people to fucking leave, then like I could save our little family. I kind of had that idea floating around in my head for a
Yeah,
while. I was young, 20s, right? So I saw it I mean, because it was from the time the community started in Mesa and really going all the way through until I left. The consumption of time and the constant no parents, especially when I was younger. They're working, the constant attention. God, I don't know how to put it into words. It was just bonkers. It was just bonkers. I mean, there was people in our house every day. It was just it was just impossible to get people to just like go have their lives, deal with their family. You know.
Well, and
So that
I go ahead, sorry.
yeah, I always wanted to kind of try to break it up, and those were some of the things like potting did, trying to get people to just go like do their lives and get out of here. But I couldn't say that outwardly or overtly. I kind of had to scheme around because, if I was called on the carpet on that, I'd be in trouble, right?
Yes. I
Yeah.
There was definitely, and I definitely noticed it. I wouldn't say I noticed it until, yeah, years in the village, but there was definitely a point where it was apparent that all of the camp children were done with everybody.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I think that was probably, I was good at hiding those feelings and hiding that. Definitely with the younger sisters. Um, I think they definitely, you know,
and there was always confusing messages about, you know, you need to show up, you need to this, you need to be pounding the door down to try to get help all the time. And then the knowing that you guys wanted people to get the fuck out to some degree.
yeah, I think because it definitely got out of control.
Oh, I mean, there
Um,
wasn't a holiday, there was nothing, there was no time that there wasn't people there.
no, yeah, it was constant.
There was always
Mm,
somebody.
Yep. And so the funny thing is too is with the with the lawsuits and all that. Excuse me, especially with the one where we eventually had the bodyguards move up. Um, During that time, I think two or three people finally left. Like Stan left. I think Sandy Montbello left. There was people who finally took off, and because that was really intense, right?
Yeah.
And there was lawsuits, the bodyguards, and yeah, I think that was just fine with my parents that all that shit was crazy because I think that they wanted or some people to leave eventually. I mean,
How
so
did the bodyguard
if they could, I mean, that's one thing, maybe, maybe if they could create havoc and make it all just miserable for people, that they would take off.
How did from your perspective, how did the bodyguards get called in? I mean, I know it was because of the lawsuits and
Yeah,
stuff.
that was a horribly embarrassing thing. Number one, we didn't need bodyguards. There was a thing that happened with Kendra, my cousin, and the Jays, and some threats and some things that happened. I think Kasuto was involved. Um, and so there was a meeting in my parents' house before it was built. This was back when it was still, we called it the old Pentagraph cab, right? Their cabin. Um, and so there was a trance at the kitchen table, and all of the men, or most of the men, were gathered in the kitchen, and the decision whether to hire bodyguards or not fell onto me. It was the strangest thing. So, I mean, I know that William Hodek and a lot of them thought this was ridiculous. We didn't need that. And for some reason, for some reason, I just blurted out yes or something. Like I voted yes. It was almost a little bit democratic. I think the room was split.
Yeah.
Like, should we do this or not? And it was sad because I think we ended up paying them probably over $100,000 to be there for as long as they were. And then he moved into the house.
Yeah,
The
several of
Bob
them.
Arthur moved into the house, and then we had yeah, we had bodyguards walking around the village, and I think that just escalated things and made things worse. It definitely milked all kinds of money from the businesses that was unnecessary, especially the construction company. I mean, that was basically paid for by Nick Fitch, Rick Galloway, Jake Garrett, Jerry Lewinson, Colin McRae. I don't know even if the law office, I mean, it was a big bill every week. And I wasn't doing the money at the time, but I know that it was a big bill. The construction company was doing very well at that time, even with all this crap going on, and they were bringing down pretty good money.
Right. How did
Does that
and then
make you
and
sad?
then it just kind of just fed the lawsuit, really.
Yeah,
Well,
just made
it
it.
started the whole lawsuit. Well, no, the lawsuit was already started. I'm trying
Yeah,
to
there was lawsuits already going on. It was
depends which lawsuits we're talking about.
right. Yep.
Yeah, because that was the bodyguards were there in the middle of the taping for the Channel
Yeah.
5.
I mean, the person who would have a better, way better memory about all this than me, of course, is Mike Harper. I mean, because he was young, he was in the middle of doing law stuff with Steve. I mean, he was in touch with them. He was in the middle of getting his law degree at the time, or he had already had it. But either way,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he would be the one who would know all of the details about that. All I just lots of boxes, lots of lots of legal boxes.
So then people start moving out slowly, and then
Yeah.
there was a big, I call it the split in the creek.
Yeah, so there was definitely a war kind of brewing between my mom and her sister. And I mean, Sandra was basically just tired of the control, tired of the constant control, the constant misogyny, the constant all of it. Um, I don't know what they fought about. I don't know the details, but that's kind of what I gathered from my last conversation with Kendra. She told me, Kendra, my cousin,
Yeah.
not my aunt. She loved us, blah, 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 me and Nicole. And we had our last conversation, and it was pretty much over. They had stopped talking, and her kids went with her and her way. And the men who had married into the other side of my family, which would have been Jake and Lewinson, they had to take care of their families and go with them. So she was a medium too, right? So she trans Red Fox. So they had their yeah, the split in the creek, as you call it, right? And that
Well,
wasn't the first time that had happened. My mother had had like we'll call them wars. She had had issues with her sisters like this several times through the years. When I was younger and in my teenage years, that's where they wouldn't speak for years, and then they would all be hunky dory and heal again. So,
what I remember being difficult about is the first of all, everybody still lives, we're still living in the
really
same
close
same
together.
tiny community. We're still like houses across the street from each other,
Yeah.
houses that are two or three doors down. And, none of the kids are allowed to play together anymore. And Stephen made it all about that Sandra had a different teaching with what Red Fox was teaching versus what Dr. Duran teaches.
And
And
that was probably true. They probably had disagreements but it was about control.
yeah,
It was about control and who's going to control what. Trust me. I mean, Stephen Camp wasn't about to he did not want to lose control over Lewinson and his inheritance that would be coming. Same with Jake, same with any other. Those were the two men basically,
right,
and McRae.
right.
So yeah, and the business was doing really well. What were they doing? Oh, septic systems. Huge, huge,
Yeah.
Yeah, the engineers, we had it all. I mean, so we were engineering huge septic alternative systems and different things. Plus, there was cabins being built in homes. They were doing remodels. There was lots of things going
So what was your life personally like at that time?
on. A flailing. I tried to stay involved in chess as much as I could to kind of keep an eye on, well, one, I enjoyed it. I got to travel. So I traveled a lot and I was basically the chaperone for the chess team, when the boys were younger. It was Gary first. And then I eventually started also driving the boys around, going to chess tournaments and going to chess tournaments all over different states and things. So that was fun. So I did that. Did a little bit of everything, construction, whatever needed to be done, kind of right-hand man, go-to kind of guy for Stephen Camp, right? And I helped with whatever, just whatever came up.
Um,
But, a little bit in the businesses here and there. Worked with Lewinson, learned a lot of business things. I learned a lot from a lot of men who knew a lot of shit. I mean, they were good at what they did. So that was a lot of my education
and then you and Nicole for a while too were you guys got wrapped into, or maybe you were being groomed, whatever you want to call it, in
completely.
processing people.
Yeah, that happened once or twice. I mean, that was always the pressure put on me was to trance. Um, you know, started meditating and sitting and doing mindfulness when I was 8. It's just so yeah. So there was about a year where I was pretty serious about that. Um, I faked it one time.
I was there.
Um, yeah, because they wouldn't get off my ass. The pressure was just by by my mother and by Sandra, my aunt. I just felt pressure, pressure, pressure. So there was that idea, or just, being, yeah, stepping up and being teachers,
So
being
the
ordained teachers. So I had done a couple of meetings, and then it was like me and Nicole like had a long talk and was like, don't ever do that again. So, yeah, I didn't want to do any of that or ever be like that. It was horrible. Those processes and things like that were so damaging to people.
Yeah, no, I remember, I mean, I was at the age that, I mean, well, me and Colin were together, and so yes, yeah, that was when you guys were doing the processing and when you started trancing.
Yeah, I wasn't really
Um,
transit. I mean, I faked it
you were
that one
faking
time.
trancing.
Yeah.
Did it help? Did it get you
Well,
off?
now I know what it was like for my mom to fake it. Did what help? Did it help relieve the pressure?
Yes.
Yeah, because mediums were on that. Well, so what it did was, I mean, there was a lot of reasons why I did that. As one, to get off the radar. So mediums were the top dog, right? Mom was the top dog. No one's going to mess with her. So, the spiritual leader of the community and the cult. So if I'm a medium, no one's going to question me or talk to me or give me any bullshit. So it was the perfect kind of way to just stay hidden. And then when I found the opportunity to split, we split, which eventually happened.
So when you decided, so you guys are processing people and you decide you guys are not into that. Was that another like, I mean, because I know that it's not like one particular incident that makes you go, yeah, I got to get the fuck out of here. It's all these little assaults that happen that you slowly start to be like, ah, gosh, I just can't do this.
Oh, what? So I was already very skeptical. I'd been skeptical for years, and I knew something was up with what my mom was doing. I knew that I didn't think it was real. I wasn't going to say anything about it. The tipping point for me was when I was confronted by them in their house, and this was after their house was built, the new home. And it's interesting how that was paid for, which we can talk about. But he basically gave me kind of an ultimatum. Him and mom, they cornered me in the kitchen and said, Harper really needs to marry your younger sister.